Welcome back to the StockTA Podcast. I'm your host, Kevin Stewart. Today, we're looking at a company that is currently achieving something rarely seen in mineral exploration, a perfect hit rate. We're talking about TooGood Gold, ticker TGC in Canada. Please note this interview is being disseminated on behalf of TooGood Gold. They just wrapped up a 30-hole drill program at their Quinlan Discovery in Newfoundland, and every single hole hit gold mineralization. But they aren't stopping at one project. They recently signed a binding agreement to acquire a massive epithermal system in Nevada called Table Mountain. To walk us through this dual-track discovery strategy, I'm joined by TooGood Gold CEO Colin Smith. Colin, thanks for joining us.
Kevin, great to be on here. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, so let's dive in a little deeper and talk about, all the things that you have going on and, these exciting drill holes that you've had lately and just where you want to go with it in the next couple months.
Yeah, absolutely. So, just to give you a bit of background with the company, we were only just listed on the venture exchange, less than a year ago now, July of last year, 2025. So since then, we drilled one program at our Newfoundland, our listing asset called the TooGood Gold project. And that was the sort of 30 hit ratio that you were referring to there. And, full disclosure, not all those holes were zingers, but, we're hitting anomalous to multi-gram and some sort of half ounce to ounce material intercepts within that drill program. So Quinlan is a new discovery in the Newfoundland asset that was only first made in 2022 by the predecessor Prospector Metals Corp. It was their flagship asset for a number of years. And in the first program at Quinlan, it hit visible gold in drill core in 15 of the first 19 holes and some really nice intervals there within. So we took that and ran with it and expanded the mineralized envelope at Quinlan quite significantly this past summer. And the rest of the project area in Newfoundland is quite prospective as well. It's over 164 square kilometers and captures over 30 kilometers of this fertile gold trend, which is actually the same structural trend, Kevin, that hosts the Valentine Lake gold mine, which is now producing at a rate of about 200,000 ounces per year just down the way. So it's good rocks. It's super underexplored, evidenced by the fact that the first drill holes in this project were only in 2022. And so what we're doing now in Newfoundland is really starting to further the district scale exploration narrative. And soil sampling is a really effective technique for us up there. It's a very thin cover. And typically when you see a gold in soil anomaly, it's very, very close to in situ mineralization. So we're going to do an extensive geochemical program in Newfoundland. And while we're doing that and sort of, drumming up the next generation of drill holes at TooGood in Newfoundland, as you mentioned before, we recently announced a binding LOI to acquire 100% interest in the Table Mountain gold project, which is in Lincoln County, Nevada, southeastern Nevada, about 2 hours drive from Las Vegas. And, it's one of the more exciting greenfields assets that I've seen in my career. I'm a professional geologist by trade. I've been working in the business for about 20 years and mostly on the structurally controlled gold part of the world, so to speak. And Table Mountain, I'm sure we'll get into in a bit here, but it was only generated and sort of discovered, so to speak, by Origin Royalties and Altius Minerals last year in 2025. And, Origin is one of the preeminent project generators that really has done incredible things in the Southwest US. For example, they're responsible for originally staking and generating the exploration model for the Silicon Gold project near Beatty, Nevada. That translated to 2020 or 2018 drilling discovery by AngloGold Ashanti, which later yielded an over 4 million ounce oxide gold resource. And that's directly adjacent to the 12 million ounce Merlin deposit. So Arthur Gold is now over 16 million ounces. So these are groups that really know how to identify good looking assets. And Table Mountain has all the hallmarks of, the upper levels of a mineralized, large, low sulfidation epithermal system, and it's never been drilled. So it's a huge opportunity for us and our shareholders, and excited to tell you a bit more about that through the call here.
When will you guys get kind of going with? Are you still in the permitting phase? Where are you with that project?
Yeah, Table Mountain, so it's all BLM ground. So, we're free to explore by any non-destructive means at present. There's quite a bit of good access in the northern part of the project area. And just to sort of orient yourself where we are in Nevada, if your listeners are all familiar with Nevada King Gold and the Atlanta Mine Project, we're 10 kilometers due south of the Atlanta Mine Pit, the past producing gold mine there. And, it's a bit of an area play too, because it's people ask, well, why has it not been drilled? Why there's no trenching or channel sampling? I think for two reasons, Kevin. First and foremost, it, certainly for for Canada, you wouldn't call it remote, but it is on the more remote side of the spectrum for Nevada. And not only that, but it's sort of off of the classic trends like the Walker Lane or the Carlin trend or the Battle Mountain or Cortez. And, I think a lot of folks who've been active in Nevada for decades, and, I've spent a lot of time in the Great Basin exploring for gold over the years. I think the next generation of discoveries in Nevada are going to come either in areas of basin, so undercover, so concealed deposits, or off the main trends. The exploration maturity on the main trends is increasing every year, especially in a bull market here. So, and we've got 1 million ounces just north of us at Atlanta, sitting in a 2024 resource that Nevada King did. They're drilling 40,000 meters this year, I believe, and they just got a $10 million strategic investment by Centerra Gold. So it's one of these kind of overlooked postal codes in Nevada, or zip codes, so to speak, that just hasn't seen the maturity of exploration that you'd expect when you walk across these veins that outcrop at surface. And the methodology that Origin applies to identify these targets and projects is that they fly regional surveys of high resolution spectral alteration mapping. I won't get too in the weeds, don't worry. But it basically identifies at a regional scale, but very high resolution, these big alteration cells. And above these specific type of gold deposits, and also some of the big porphyry copper deposits that you see in Arizona, for example, they have really distinct alteration cells in scale and size, but also the type of minerals that you see. And so they identified a big 4 by 2 kilometer alteration halo, basically, that was nicely zoned at Table Mountain. They then do sort of first pass geological mapping and rock sampling. And sure enough, in their first couple traverses, they walked across these, multiple meter scale textbook epithermal veins showing the exact sort of textures that you want to see right at surface, to suggest that you're sort of in the upper levels of the system, not eroded down, and, that you've lost a bunch of mineralization. Sampled them, they were all running at least anomalous to multi-gram gold, and that was enough for them. It was then sort of as far as Patty Nickel, their CEO, and also Lawrence Pryor, their VPX, calls it's arguably the best greenfields opportunity they've generated to date, and that would include things like the Silicon project and whatnot. So yeah, early days, it's never been drilled. Of course, there's a high risk profile there, but I think the upside is extreme. And, if we can crack the code, so to speak, and have a bit of luck with the drill bit, I think it's going to be a huge return for our shareholders.
Yeah. Well, speaking of returns, let's go take a look at your share price right now. So I'm sharing my screen. So for my American listeners, TooGood Gold is TGGCF on the OTC in America. And if we're looking at your share price here, you've kind of been in this 7 to 12 cent range for a couple months now. Do you have any comments on that?
Yeah, I mean, we experienced, so, we listed in July of last year. We actually, got to work with exploration, started getting some results in the market, and we sort of ticked up into and I'm thinking in Canadian dollars here, I apologize, but into the sort of 30s and mid 40s, and, continued to put out results and good numbers, and the market appreciated them and recognized them. And then the 4-month hold period came up on some of the 10-cent paper that was issued as a part of the raise concurrent to listing. And so by the end of October, all that 10-cent paper started coming out, and we did experience quite a bit of selling pressure as a result of that. And it sort of coincided with when the results from exploration were starting to be completely disclosed to market. And so, I think we experienced a bit of a slip due to that. And knowing that there is a bit of seasonality to the exploration work in Newfoundland, I think people were sitting, on a 3-bagger or a 4-bagger. Since the 10-cent round, they saw an opportunity to exit and reallocate capital. No judgment there. That's why we're in the game. But so yeah, we sort of experienced some slip there. But I think that we found our bottom, and a good part of that exercise is that it's really cleansed our book. And I think those folks that were looking for a quick exit or a 3 or a 4-bagger have moved on. And I suspect that with all the work that we'll have going on in Nevada and the opportunity for us to leverage a discovery-focused drill program at a district-scaled low sulfidation epithermal system that's never been drilled, I think we'll see some traction, is my belief. And we've got a very, very extensive thorough exploration program that's just kicking off in Nevada, and there'll be multiple catalysts that will come through that. But ultimately, the eye on the prize is the drill program, which we're aiming for sort of Q3 of this year if all goes well.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, if you look at the volume on this, it's been, pretty steady to low for a while. So I would agree that I think a lot of your shares have probably turned over, and now you're probably sitting in a lot better shape fundamentally. How much does management insiders own? What's your share structure right now?
Yeah, so I'd say about 20%
Okay.
of the issue outstanding. Yep.
Okay.
And we bought in the open market of late. We participated in the last 30-cent round, and we're all putting our money where our mouths are, and especially now, I think we really believe in the opportunity at both assets here and the ability to sort of pivot to one as we're advancing the exploration narrative at the other, and have two drill timelines on the go. I think will give us a bit of optionality and more steady news flow through the year as well.
That was going to be my next question, is how do you balance kind of the planning and the news flow? Like Nevada and Newfoundland are two very different jurisdictions, two very different permitting processes, two very different climates. So is that why you did it? So you can try to balance working on one, then you wait for results while you're working on the other. So you get into that news flow of there's always stuff going on. So you don't see this kind of people looking to dump the shares after they make, 5 or 6 cents.
100%. Yeah. And I think jurisdiction is key. And, Nevada as a jurisdiction for exploration mining is among the best in the world, without a doubt. And Newfoundland is as well. It consistently ranks in the top 10 of the Fraser Institute ranking for, attractiveness for mining investment. And it's a phenomenal place for permitting, super supportive local communities, and, great local skilled workforce. So while the jurisdictions are geographically quite dissimilar in terms of climate and location, the exercise of getting work done cost effectively and on time is about the same, I'd say. Great places to work, great places for exploration, and fairly clear and determined timeline and process to get not only permits but also develop assets as well, which is key. We're in the business of finding mines ultimately. And so if you could find the best gold deposit on the planet, but if you can't build it, then nobody wins. So
I was going to ask you, do you guys see yourself, with your background as a geo, do you guys see yourself more as mine finders versus mine builders? Like, what's kind of your longer term plan with both projects?
Our main and sole focus is making discoveries of scale, and ultimately, de-risking any said discovery as much as possible or need be to make it attractive to a potential suitor, be it a larger explorer or developer. I think it's such a different toolkit and skill set to build a mine versus find one. Our focus is purely on discovery, and also de-risking key elements such as the permitting and the metallurgy. And if it gets that far, we want to showcase the fact that yes, there's a scalable deposit here, but also there's no skeletons in the closet, so to speak, that are going to hold this thing up down the line.
No, I think that's a really smart plan. So as we wrap up here, what do you think is the biggest fundamental driver for TooGood Gold between now and year end?
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, I think it's the opportunity to plan and conduct a maiden drill program at a completely undrilled, district scale, low sulfidation epithermal project in Nevada. These opportunities don't come around a whole lot anymore. And, I was at site, Kevin, just a few days before PDAC this year, and you go up to these veins and it's like looking at a geology textbook for epithermal systems. It's classic upper level textures. And typically in Nevada, you go up to a vein like that and you'd see channel samples and trenches and drill pads and drill roads and hammered chip marks on the side of the outcrop. These things were completely pristine. It really looked like there had been nobody there with modern means, for sure, exploring this since Origin did it last year and in partnership with Altius. So it's a huge opportunity. It's certainly one that I feel grateful to take a swing at. I know that there's a number of majors and mid-tiers and producers in Nevada that were keen on taking a good look at Table Mountain. So I feel fortunate and grateful to have the opportunity. And we've got a great new VP exploration in Lee Hess, whom I used to work with at SSR Mining up at CB Gold Mine up in Saskatchewan. And Lee spent the better part of his career focusing on structurally controlled gold systems as far south as as Argentina, as far north as some of the orogenic systems in Saskatchewan. So he's going to bring a huge, depth of expertise on the technical side to the team, and ultimately, Q3 drill program, hoping for a discovery in Nevada. So that's the plan.
Awesome. Well, for my listeners looking for the next big discovery play, I would urge you to keep this on your watch list. And where can they find more about your company?
Yeah, I mean, you can feel free to reach out to me directly if you'd like. Colin at ToogoodGoldCorp.com, and the website's a great option as well. But I'm always available for chat. And every so often I get to the forum boards, but I try to stay away from those a little bit. But reach out anytime by email.
Okay, awesome. Well, that's it for us today. For my listeners at home, please hit the subscribe button on YouTube so you don't miss our next CEO deep dive. That's it for StockTA Podcast. Colin, thanks for being here.
Thanks very much, Kevin.